a kedetset ampeitukin ta kuku itos tistana iwoahdakikta. Ta korwitsocha ohana hetset nioya kumpe. We pazokawakpa head taku ota tayankta hetset na. Washte ohana etjara. Uka ta korwitsocha kire tuhantuche techike. Wanatahan yote taku ota techike aya. Uge naku Dakota Iapi ukachni kapsni ish naku hana ohana wohada kapsni. Dakoru choch anki hana naku akiktush aya bhetset. Unka hana ake ijipash unkikchupta washtet ka unkija tana tona hetset maundi pihna tohai uki ukoki hipkahan ito Dakota Iapi ish Dakota wichokanki ake ohna tea maunipta. My friends and relatives, I come here again to speak of who we are as Dakota people. Sometimes it's hard because we make it hard for ourselves. You know, nobody makes it hard for us. It's us. We have to, wake up our minds, our brains, and to see what is really happening here in our community. We have to see beyond what will be good for us. And this is what I wanted to talk about, our way of life, our Dakota way of life is very, very important. A lot of us are forgetting our language. We're forgetting our Dakota way of life. We say we follow it, but, we have to follow it with our hearts. Not, just to think about it, but we have to follow it with our heart, and take pride in who we are. Because if we don't do that, we will continue to carry that negative around us, with us. And this is not only here in Wipazokawakpa, Sioux Valley. It's happening, all over other Dakota communities that have, may have lost their language or may have, lost their Dakota way of life. It'll be hard to bring it back, to take it back, but we can do it. We all are very strong people. If we really want things to work for us, for our families, for our children, we can make it work. It's not hard. We have to just get together, and that's something that we need to start doing, is to come together and help each other out. We can't say, oh, you're doing it wrong. This is the way you do it. We can't say that, because there is no wrong way and there is no right way. We just have to go with what we were taught when we were growing up. Like with myself, I learned a lot, from my own parents and my grandparents. They showed us many things and they talked to us about many things, but we didn't necessarily follow it to a T until later on in life. we were beginning to understand, yeah, okay, this is what they had meant. This is what they wanted us to know. So we have to think about that and go back and try and remember, some of the teachings that you may have heard from your grandparents because, our grandparents were very wise people. They lived that life. They went through so much. They experienced, so much in their lives. And this is why they wanted to keep us safe, to protect us that we don't lose our language and our way of life, because we need to start caring, having compassion for people, having the love and the respect for people that waohoda, waunshida, wo, waokia. Those are so important and they're very powerful words. If we really think about it, wawokia, what do we mean by that? Wawokia, to help. Not only to help, to give a ride to somebody to go get grocery shopping. Wawokia means a lot of things. There's so much attachment to that word. So this is what we need to understand. And wa'unshida is the same thing. We have pity for people, but it's beyond that. We have to really think about what wa'unshida is. A lot of people don't understand that. We have to define that. And before we can apply it to others, we have to apply it to ourselves first, to experience that wa'unshida within your heart, have pity for myself. We have to start everything that we do, we learn, we hear, it comes from us first. And then we can teach it to our families, our children, grandchildren, because you need to experience that. You can't just, put it out there. We have to think about it with a good heart, to have that respect that you're going to put out there. Respect those words that you are going to say. And be honest and be truthful, with yourself. Because that's what's going to help you. That's what's going to make you stronger, to give you that strength, to be able to put it out there. It'll become easier. So Iapi, we need to really settle ourselves down now, and pay attention, to our Dakota way of life. Sometimes we take it for granted, thinking that somebody is going to do these things for us. No, we can't let that happen. We have to do it. We have to start doing that. And we always have to start within ourselves and within our families for it to spread. And once, everybody understands that, it will become easier. And we will be, happier people. We will live with happy hearts. We won't have no negative attitudes towards one another or to be blaming, for that person for doing this or doing that. That's not our way of life. Our way of life is to help one another. We can't blame, we can't point fingers, you know, saying that, oh, she's just saying that, she thinks she knows everything. You know what? I don't know everything. I'm just saying these things because of what I was taught when I was growing up. You know, my grandparents were there for us all the time, and we heard and we seen and they shared with what they know because they wanted us to be a better people, good Dakota people. And if you don't do that, we become miserable. We have to understand ourselves, who we really are as Dakota people. We can't just say, oh, I'm Dakota, and not know what the Dakota way of life is, not knowing what Waunshida is, not knowing what Waokia is, not knowing what Waohada is, not knowing the Woksape, the Woksape, the knowledge of, the things that are out there. So we have to, think about those things. We can do it. I honestly believe, the people can do it. My Oyate, we can do it. We just have to come together, work together, share our ideas as to how we can help one another, what we can do, because I get tired of hearing the same things over and over. We can change it. And this is why I'm sitting here. I'm putting it out there for people to know and to understand that we can make changes as Dakota people all across, this nation. A lot of people are suffering because they don't know who they are as Dakota people. That language is very important. Language connects us to everything, to our ceremonies, to our how we live, how we do things, what we do. The language is the connection because our beautiful language came from Wakantanka. He brought it to the Dakota people so as we can have a good life, a happy life, to live in harmony, to live in a kind and generous way, to help and share what we have with one another. This is why that language came, and we cannot abuse our language. Nowadays, people abuse our language. They say words that shouldn't be used, in a good way. Words are to be used with kindness. It's hard, to think like that because we're so used to living how we are living today. Not, it seems that we don't care, but, we care. It's just that we have to practice it, practice the good way, and we can change. And I'm going to keep saying it. We can change things, our way of life. We just need to work together. We just need to come together. Even, with other Dakota communities, if we can come together every now and then and talk about these things, how we can help our Oyate, you know, it will create something. It will create a better way of living, a better way of life, where, you know, there'll only be harmony, you know, as to how, compared to how we are living now. Because right now, you know, everything is in turmoil because we don't have our language. We don't know how to be a Dakota person. We don't understand or can't even live our Dakota way of life because we're putting so much trash out there, you know, trying to hurt people. You know, that's not our way of life. Our way of life is supposed to be a beautiful life where, you know, we don't have to ask for anything. People will come, you know, and if you are in need, somebody will come and help you. If you want something, people will be there to help you out. But we don't see that anymore. And that's the sad part. You know, we need to wake up now and start living this Dakota way of life. The Dakota way of life has so much meaning, so much to it. It's not just our way of life. You know, there's how we live day to day. We should change that around and make it a Dakota way of life, starting with the language. That's so important. We need to start doing that. So with that, Iapi, I hope you understand what I'm trying to put across. Because as Dakota people in the communities, we're all suffering the same. You know, nobody is higher than the other. We can't say our community is doing better than the other community. We're all having the same troubles, the same worries, the same negative things that are happening. We're all carrying that, and it affects us. Sometimes we are pulled down, especially, you know, with our children. Our children are going to be the ones that are going to suffer from it. And we don't want that for our children. We want the best for our children, to be able to understand their language and start, you know, how to live like a Dakota, Hochshida, or Awichiana. You know, they need to know who they are. They need to know the roles of, you know, a Dakota man, a Dakota woman. So, but it's up to us to teach those to our children. So, Hanakcha Pekte, I hope, you know, reach out if you need to talk more about it. I'm always available. And I do what I can to help people because I treasure my language. I don't want to lose it. You know, when I went to school, I lost my language, but it came back. Plus, you know, all the other things. With the help of my parents, with the help of my grandparents, I got it all back again. So it can happen. You know, we just have to work very hard for ourselves to make these things happen and helping each other. And that's so important, to be there for one another. Mitaukiapi, Nakshe Pekta.